Hey guys, it's Morgan coming back to you with another weekly Shlog. Welcome to Highland Cycles. If you're new here, this is our weekly shop vlog or Shlog. I'm Morgan. The guy coming in here is Angry Zach. There he is. Riding a motorcycle appropriate for his size. Just finishing actually a full rebuild, crank up on a KX-65 from a kid who blew the heck out of that thing. And then it took us forever to get parts because of COVID-19, but it's done and we're super stoked. So anyway, if you're new here, stick with us. This is our vlog where we show you lots of cool mechanical stuff. So we're gonna be working on this DR650, lots of things. Anyway, let's get after it. Alright guys, so first on my lift for the week is this DR650. Customer complaint is there is oil going everywhere. I think that was the official thing. So, as you can see, there is mists of oil everywhere. I don't really know 100% exactly where all that's coming from. But we are going to start at the cam chain tensioner because cam chain tensioner is definitely leaking. It's super wet around there, and I've had these cam chain tensioner gaskets leak before. We also have a base gasket and head gasket in case we have to take the top end apart, because it kind of looks like maybe the base gasket is leaking, although it'd just be weird, man. These things are so bulletproof, I just kind of doubt that. So we're going to start by doing the cam chain tensioner gasket, and then go from there if we need to. So I gotta get the exhaust out of the way, I think. Yeah, maybe might be able to do it without it, but I'll see. If I can get that thing out of the way without doing the exhaust, I will. If not, no big deal. Actually, you know what, I'm just gonna take the exhaust out of the way. It's pretty easy. This guard has to come off. The clamp for the exhaust is there, and then we'll get the head. Anyway, so I'm gonna get the exhaust off and then we'll show you what we're looking at with the cam chain tensioner. Alright guys, new development with the Suzuki DR650. So got the pipe off, by the way. Definitely do that if you're gonna mess with these things. That was super easy. Came right off. It's not like some of the KTMs, it's like you gotta take everything apart just to get, anyway, it's a nightmare. So got it apart, or got the pipe off, and I came in here to start taking this loose, and I went like that, and it just spins. It's fingy tight, not even fingy tight. So yeah, I think I may have solved this problem very quickly. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that off. I got a new gasket, clean it all up, put a new gasket on, and then I'm gonna clean this up. And this isn't like, I don't know if I'd call this a tech tip, but anyway, I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, a way to check things. So he brought it to me dirty on purpose, right? I usually give people a really hard time if they bring me something dirty, because he wanted me to see where all the oil was going. So that's awesome. I definitely got to see that. Check the base gasket on the other side. Let me show you real fast why he's thinking maybe it's a base gasket too, and it could be. But you can see the oil here, but what I'm really hoping is that is oil from the cam chain tensioner kind of spraying and then following that seam of the base gasket around. So like I said, he brought me this, wanted me to see it like this, which is awesome. Okay, great. Now I've seen it. Now I'm gonna replace this gasket. Then I'm gonna pressure wash the living heck out of this thing, get it nice and dry, and then I'm gonna go ride the wheels off of it for a while and make sure it's not leaking anymore. And if it does, then I'll be able to see exactly where it's coming from again. So yeah, so I'm gonna start with that. Then I'll get it all washed off and then we'll check back in when we check it. Alright guys, just got back from riding the DR and it is bone dry. Really happy about that. Look up in there. Totally dry. All around that base gasket. Like I said, I blasted off really good with the pressure washer. And yeah, all dry. There's a little bit of I'll clean that off with some brake clean. I guess I didn't get far enough down in there, but it's not wet at all. I took it and really rode it up and down the road quite a bit. That's the thing. A lot of times, guys, when you're working on something, especially something that's like, well, like a weep kind of leak or something that doesn't always crop up, you really got to go beat on the machine and get it really hot sometimes to see if it's going to crop up again. So this thing is brutally hot right now. Yeah, it's super good. So I'm happy to save that guy a whole bunch of money. Didn't need the head gasket, base gasket, or like 4.5, 5 hours worth of labor doing the top end basically. So yeah, saving a bunch of money. I'm going to change the oil, give him a ring, and let him know that his job ended up costing him a lot less than he thought. Alright guys, next on my list is what you guys may recognize as the 250EXC-F. Put a fuel pump in it. We already did fuel filter. All those things were bad. The filter wasn't moving fuel very easily. The pump definitely had lost a bunch of black, like part of the armature. Anyway, whatever. But it still didn't fix it. It actually, I took it out and rode it, and it actually ran really good for about 10 minutes, maybe 15, and then it started doing it again. So it was, I guess, a move in the right direction, but anyway, so I am back to my original theory of the stator. We got one here from KTM. This is part of the mechanics world, right? Is sometimes we chase the wrong thing, although I really do believe that the filter and the pump were a problem, because, I mean, like I said, the filter, you couldn't even blow air through it, much less gas. And then when I got that in, it really didn't change anything. When I put a pump in it, then it like ran, but it didn't run great for very long. So I do still think, I guess, and I hate that. I hate hoping that things are, you know, I hate guessing and just throwing parts at stuff. But everything I checked showed that it was wrong, and so we replaced it. And sometimes that's how this goes, guys. So I'm sure I'm gonna get some comments like, oh, you're not very good mechanic, you don't know what you're doing, you're just throwing parts at things. And I hate that. I hate that feeling. But the reality is, sometimes you get a machine and you've got to work through all the problems. Like, I haven't replaced or fixed anything that didn't need to be taken care of. But I agree that probably the underlying issue was the stator the whole time. But these other things were just also problems. So anyway, part of my life. Like, we can't all be, you know, we can't be magic and get the right thing the first time every time. So anyway, I'm going to take this cover off, put a new stator in it. I'll show you what that looks like here when we get it off. I got to drain the oil and all that. On 4-strokes, if you guys don't know, some people don't, the stator runs in oil. If you're an old school 2-stroke guy and have been forever, your stator's never had oil in it. But on 4-strokes, especially modern ones, the stator always runs in oil. So you got to drain that first, then we'll take that cover off. I'll show you guys what that looks like. Alright guys, we got all the bolts loose, everything out of the way. I just want to talk about this a little bit. When you're taking a stator cover off, of a 4-stroke at least, some 2-strokes are like this, but not all of them. I think the new KTMs are, because they have the stator attached to the cover. But generally 4-strokes have the stator attached to the cover, and then the flywheel is kind of shaped like this, and the stator sits down in it, and the flywheel spins around it. But so there's a bit of a magnetism, so you got to be a little bit kind of careful. Let me set you down here. There we go. You gotta be careful, and it's going to be, it said, magnetized. And there we go. Whoa, hang on. There we go. There's the stator. So, quick little lesson for you guys on how stators work. This is on KTM's. This right here is all, well, it's 3 charging coils, but this is all a charging coil. This only has to do with charging the battery. and it makes a bunch of power because the battery is what's running the fuel injection and the ignition by itself. And so it draws a ton of power, so it needs a bunch of juice to charge it back up. The only part that's in this cover that has anything to do with the ignition is this guy right here. That's the pulsar coil or crank position sensor, or let's see, what else do they call it? Anyway, I call it pulsar coil. So this is what I believe is failing. This thing seems to be working just fine, charging the battery when it does run, but this is the part that I've seen fail other times. So I'm gonna take these bolts out, pull this thing out, and while it's out, we'll check resistances and make sure that it's all, hopefully that the measurements on this for resistance are different than the one that we have in the box. So then, yeah, we'll take this apart, put the new one in, and let me show you guys, if you don't know how a stator works, how it makes power. And actually, this is a good lesson for everybody on how you make electricity, period. Unless you're solar power, pulling it from the sun, this is how power is made in every other way. Wind turbines, hydroelectric, steam, coal, gas, all of it. All of it works like this. And now, well, anyway, it all works like this. So we have a coil of wire here, and we have right in here magnets. They're on the inside here. When this coil of wire is inside here, and then the motor spins, because this is attached to the crankshaft, the motor spins. When magnets go past, and I don't know, this is the magic part. When magnets go past a coil of wire, it generates electricity. It's really weird. But that's how they make power. Now, sometimes they spin the coil past the magnet, sometimes they spin the magnet past the coil, but it's all, when you're talking about a turbine of any kind, whether it be hydroelectric turbine, wind turbine, coal-powered turbine, natural gas-powered turbine, all that stuff, it's a magnet going past a coil of wire is how this works. So anyway, I'm gonna take that out and we'll check resistances and we'll put it back in. All right, guys, so here's the new one. I just want to show you guys something. And I've already posted this on Facebook, so a lot of you guys may have already seen this. And the reason I didn't put a caption is I didn't want to put necessarily a big judgment on it, but it is interesting. If we look here, we'll see that that is made in Thailand for KTM. And it's interesting because it says original part and stator, KTM, Madagascar, Austria, but made in Thailand. Now, I'm not saying that this is a bad part. I'm not saying that Thailand, like people in Thailand are bad at making stators. That's not at all what I'm saying. It's just interesting that that's how this is going. Even KTM, who a lot of people were like, thought, well, it's all made in Austria, it's European, it's good. Well, not everything. Again, I'm not saying Thailand's bad, and that the stator is bad, but it is an interesting thing. It's like looking at your Harley and seeing parts made in Mexico. Alright guys, so I checked the resistance from this is the brand new stator to the old one. The charging coils are all exactly the same, they're 0.6 ohms, but the resistance on the pickup coil is a little bit different. It's not much different. The old one is just over 100 ohms and the new one is just under 100 ohms by like 1 or 2 ohms, so it's probably 5 ohms out, which is not much. But resistance checks don't always show you the underlying problem at all, especially when it's cold. So that is another thing, like that, this is a cold stator, that other one's cold, and this thing did seem to work when it was, cold, and then it would warm up and then fail. So I still, right now, I'm having pretty good feelings about this fixing the problem, but we'll see here in a second. Alright guys, so got the new stator in. It's pretty easy to make sure you line the holes up, whatever, but one thing I just want to touch on real fast is you can see, I'll point out with this little tab, and see down in there, that tab. So that's a keeper that comes, it's from the factory, it's in here. you got to make sure you get these wires tucked behind it like that, and underneath it down in there. That keeps those wires from accidentally maybe coming out and hitting the stator, or excuse me, the flywheel, because it won't do anything immediately because the flywheel is pretty smooth, but eventually it'll wear through and then shut the whole thing down. So something to pay attention to very carefully when you're putting stators in. All right, guys, got the stator in, got oil back in it, tank hooked back up. Honestly, I hate to do this, but I've got my fingers crossed. I really want it to just to know that I'm right about this, but we'll find out here very shortly. Key on. Let the pump run a little bit. The battery does seem low. See, that battery sounds low, which is super frustrating. So I'm gonna go get my jump pack, hook that up, and see what happens. All right, guys, so I hooked the jump pack up to it. It's a good start. Ooh. All right, so now I'm gonna check the idle, adjust, make sure that seems okay. We'll keep moving forward. I'm gonna check in here when I get a little further on. All right, guys, I have awesome news. The 250EXC-F is, I believe, fixed. So till the fan came on, and then I rode it a bunch and hammered. Anyway, I think we're good. So let's go over what all we did. And there's a couple things I didn't film that I'll fill you in on. So we started with a fuel filter because the fuel filter was super clogged and had all the black stuff from the bushings or the whatever in the pump. So fuel filter, then it was, you know, flowing well. Still didn't work, so I put a pump in it. It worked for a little bit with the new pump. It made me think that it was going to be good. So, okay, awesome, and then it died. So then I checked spark, and it was kind of not that great, and it seemed intermittent. So okay, my original thing was stator. So I got a new stator, put it in, fired it up. You guys are here for that. It was real hit and miss, not that great. So then I started adjusting idle. This is what I didn't film. So I started adjusting the idle, which I'd already checked and whatever, but I started adjusting that. It seemed like it was getting better. I adjusted the TPS because I could make it run as long as I held the throttle on, but as soon as I chopped it, it would die no matter what I did with the idle. So I adjusted the TPS, and it ran for a really long time. I thought it was going to run until the fan came on, and then like probably not long before the fan would have come on, it died. My buddy Dirk was here. He was like, so we're scratching our heads. I'm like, this is ridiculous. So messed with the throttle of the idle again, messed with the cold start thing. Anyway, got it all factory settings, and then it wouldn't start at all. Then it just like died and it would not start. So I'm like, this is ridiculous. I gotta check spark again. I don't know. Oh, actually, and then, excuse me, I checked the regulator rectifier. On a diode check, it checked out fine, everything was good, but the lithium battery, the OEM battery in it, didn't seem like it was charging. So I put a lead acid battery in it, then it seemed like it was charging. I took a regular rectifier off of this bike right here. This is our Covco bike that we're going to build for him. It's the same regular rectifier. Put it on, didn't change anything. So put the other one back on, okay. So I took a tank from a known working bike, put it on to make sure I didn't like screw up something with the fuel pump. Same thing, start, die, whatever. So I then took the spark plug out and put it on the head, and it's sparking, but not that great. So then I got another spark plug, and it's interesting. And like I inspected that spark plug, and it wasn't like no crack in the porcelain, no nothing. I took another spark plug, and I got the spark plug that it calls for, and there's interesting. There's a little bit of a difference. The spark plug that it calls for, it's an LMAR blah blah blah. It's a -8 is what it calls for. It had a -10 in it, so put the 8 in it. Also, I found the other thing I found was a crack in the insulation of the boot that goes onto the spark plug, the spark plug cap. I wrapped that with electrical tape, insulated it again, put it all back in, and now it runs. And it runs great, and I rode it and rode it and rode it. So I think we got her solved. Just an interesting, like, honestly, giant nightmare for me, but I hope that helps with you guys. I hope that if you end up with one of these things, I don't know for sure. Like, I know that the fuel pump and filter needed to be replaced. This thing only has 600 miles of the 2018. Bad gas been sitting in it, whatever. So I feel good about that. The stator, I don't know. They did get different readings on the pickup coils, but I don't know about that. I'm gonna talk to the customer about that. I mean, as you guys, if you've watched many of our Shlogs, you know I'm super upfront and honest. So I'm gonna tell them exactly all what happened, and we're gonna discuss the price of everything, because I don't know that the stator needed to be done. I think what I'm gonna do is charge him for the part, probably like maybe just a fuzz over my cost, but I'm not gonna charge him for any of the labor on that, because I don't know if the stator actually needs to be replaced. But I'm not gonna pull the new one out, and I can't send it back. So I'm gonna send him with the old one. We'll negotiate a price on that. So, and then someone else had the idle and all that stuff totally screwed up, and the TPS. So, because the TPS, that changed a bunch and started running way better. So that was definitely not right. And it looked, they had fiddled with it. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so there we go. It's a crazy story. That was long-winded, but we got her fixed. Yeah, I'm really happy about that. So on to the next job. All right, guys. So I want to show you guys this cool little tech tip, but based on this is a 2020 Sherco 300 that we're working on for Mr. Ryan Secules, who doesn't know this yet, but his new nickname is going to be the Molecule. So because his last name is Secule. Anyway, whatever. Molecule, this is your bike, and it's awesome. We are servicing the suspension, putting lighter springs on it, and all that. And we're working on the shock. Where'd that shock shaft thing go?
The seals.
Oh, yeah. Okay, whatever. So, this is the dust seal on the shock, and it had let some stuff by and trashed the bushing in there. And unfortunately, I didn't have a seal, which is a bummer. I should have these seals. I got them for KTMs, but anyway. So we don't have it, but we need to get it back together because he's going to go racing this weekend. And so what I did was I took this little spring off the seal. Let me see if you guys can see that. Focus! There we go. So you see that spring? I took it off and tightened it up. Let me show you how that works. His mind was blown. When blown! When I did that. So let me show you how I did that. So I took this spring off of Mr. Secules' dust cover right there. So I'm gonna show you guys something pretty cool. Most people don't talk about this because most people just don't know. But here's your spring from your dust seal. And you can do this on the fork seal too, to help tighten things up. So you'll find, and I don't know if, there we go. So you see that? That's a seam right there. So if you take this and you lefty-loosey it, boop, it comes apart. And you see Right there, see that has how it's smaller? That screws into this side over here. So hang on. So if you don't have new seals or you're going to do a big mud ride or whatever, what you can do is you can unscrew it, take a nice set of dikes. You want to cut, but you cannot cut this side here with the narrower part. You gotta cut this side. Take a little bit out. You go, look down and make sure it's nice and round still. Then you come back together and you just screw it back together. There you go. Pretty cool trick to help keep the dirt and the mud out of your forks. Also, if you got fork seals that are starting to weep just a little bit, or maybe they got some sand in it, you got to clean them out. If you can actually take that spring out while it's on the bike, unscrew it, clip a little bit on, put it back on, and a lot of times that'll save you having to do your fork seals right away. It does not replace servicing your forks and put new oil in them, but what it does do is maybe get you through a race or a weekend or something like that. So anyway, there's your little tech tip. All right, guys, so next on the lift is an 07 300XC. It's an XC, XCW, anyway, whatever, 300 KTM. Customer brought it in, said that it blew the base gasket. I was like, okay. So he wants me to check that out and see what's going on. And so I pulled the pipe off first. I looked in there. The cylinder is definitely no bueno. But actually, as I was rolling it over, it really didn't feel good. It just doesn't feel good. So I think we probably have more of a problem with the crank also. So let's take it apart. I've already got everything off of it. The head, the base nuts, anyway. So it's just ready to slide off. So let me sit you guys down here. We'll take it off. So the cylinder's no good. Take a look at that in just a second. Come in here. You can see. Focus. There we go. See all that scoring there. The rings are definitely like stuck down in. So that's no good. Now let's take a look at the rod bearing. It just doesn't want to turn over. Oh yeah. So look at this. If we grab this, see how it moves the whole crank? It shouldn't do that. So, bike needs a crank, piston, cylinder replate, everything, full rebuild, everything. Yeah, that is a giant bummer, but it is what happens. Eventually, the two strokes. If you don't do the crank and stuff preventatively, that's definitely can happen. So, I got to make a sad phone call. This guy's a friend of mine. I really like him, and I'm bummed out that I have to tell him that this is wrong with his bike. But let's take a look here too. If you see, you can look in there. See those cracks? That's not awesome. Those have developed since the last time we worked on it. Probably could be creating a lean situation there. Could be a lean situation on the left crank seal. There's always a possibility too. Because generally when the crank locks up like that, it's because the thing just got lean and overheated. And so anyway, there we go. Another blown up motorcycle, guys. I don't know. I hope we fix this one. It's a nice bike, but it is getting to be older, so I'm not sure what he's going to do. But we'll check in and we'll get to the next job. All right, guys. So the sad KTM, I just talked to the owner. He's just going to part it out. It is an 07. He was thinking about getting a new bike anyway, and this just accelerated his decision process. So anyway, next on the lift is this little CRF. Guys from out of town, they're here riding. He's having problems with the carburetor. I guess it's leaking. It's pretty interesting. I've been looking at this thing. It's kind of crazy. He's got these fancy graphics on it. Whatever, lots of bikes do. But then It's got this for the vent hoses, and Zach was asking me what that was for. I was like, I don't know. And it's got a fancy FMF pipe, and then I noticed this. It's got a Milapse holder for a transponder, and I think that this little bike was either set up as a full race supermoto, because it does have this thing that says supermoto up here, or a road racer or a flat tracker. And that's why they have this canister here. Probably had something to do with roads, so probably supermoto, because when bikes are racing on roads, they have to make sure they have catch cans for any kind of fluid so it doesn't get on the track and then make it slippery for someone coming around behind them. So kind of interesting. Anyway, it's here because the carburetor is leaking, so we're going to take that off and apart and take a look at it. So Zach had mentioned that they said they put some safety wire to change some stuff, and they definitely did. They see that? That's I don't know what good that does for anything, but I want to take that off of there because definitely not supposed to be there. All right, guys, got the thing hooked up, got the gas on. That's actually on reserve, and nothing's leaking. So I don't know if they just didn't put that needle in. I'm gonna go ahead and hook it back up and see if it'll run, because I'm a little bit worried that that float level was off and it would make it the float too low, which would then make it too lean and not run. So I'm gonna bolt this up and then I'll check in and see if it runs. Pretty good. I also noticed there is no air filter in it. So desperately hoping that they have that. The carburetor was awfully clean, so I'm sure they have the air filter. Yeah, I'm gonna turn the idle down a little bit, take it for a spin, but I think we're good. All right, guys, next on my lift is my little 125XC named Eileen. I got her up here because I'm going racing this weekend. We're going to go do the San Isabel Enduro. I think they're actually calling it the Cuerno del Diablo Verde over near San Isabel, Colorado, which is, just Google it. Anyway, it's up in the mountains, it's going to be awesome. But these forks that have been on this bike for a while are off of my 300. And Brady Metter would be mad at me if he knew exactly how long it had been since I serviced them. But I don't really know, but it's a lot of hours. So I'm going to service those forks, obviously air filter, oil, all that, get it ready. I think I'm going to blow this pipe out again. It's got a few more dings. Get that blown out and straight, and then we're going to go racing. So make sure you guys subscribe, because we're going to do a race video. My son Ewan and I, my younger boy, are both racing the Enduro. Should be a ton of fun. So yeah, I'll hit on the highlights as we service this thing, but I've definitely shown you guys these forks before. Yeah, I'll check in here in a little bit. All right, guys, so getting my forks done, and I just wanted to show you something. So I'm using the OEM fork seal kit, which comes with seals, new circlips, new washer, and these new like travel indicators. It's just a fancy zip tie. But anyway, whatever. There's a lot of suspension shops out there that will you know, they'll take things apart. It's like, oh look, you know, this guy's not doing a very good job because this doesn't slide down. You know, you've got to get all the stiction gone and all that. You got to spend all this money to have all this special coating or whatever, micro polish, some people call it, and they charge lots of money for it. So on this bike, this is my own bike, Brady revalved it and did a wonderful job. It's amazing, from TBT. And by the way, we are becoming a TBT shop hopefully very soon. It's in the works. I'm hoping within the next month or so. But anyway, and did a great job valving everything, and I'm going to show you a couple other things that are different about these Explorer forks that aren't on the stock stuff. But I have done nothing special other than take my red Scotch Brite, put a crosshatch in here like I always do. It was just take it and up and down. And so this is stock. I put brand new bushings. Now does make a big difference. I put brand new KTM OEM bushings and OEM fork seals. We're gonna take the get the dust seal on there. Now watch. So it's not going that fast, right? It's a little internet trick for you guys. This is a motorcycle protectant from Mokoff, but you can use Pledge or lots of other things. But it's basically just a inexpensive lubricant. You run that up and down, boom, just like that. So before you give a suspension company a whole bunch of money for micro polishing, talk to them about exactly what that means, because I've actually worked with someone who used to call it micro polishing, the whole deal with just taking the red Scotch-Brite and running up and down there. But you can see just a little bit of protectant on there and it's all good to go. Alright guys, so one of the things that TBT does on these Explorer forks is they add this. There we go, focus. That is a base valve. They don't come with this, which is interesting. I don't know why. Well, I do think I know why. It's to be cheap. So normally on your Explorer fork, you only have the valve that's in there. I'm not taking it apart because I don't need to, but there's a valve in there, a piston with shims and all that. And normally there's only one there and then one on the rebound. Well, this is the rebound side, one on the compression side. And that is what really equals a bad setup, is because you're dealing with one fork controlling compression and one fork controlling rebound, and it's the same size piston as would normally be doing half the work on each. Because anyway, normally a fork would have, compression is this valve, this base valve, and then rebound is the one inside here, and that's whatever, and they're on both forks, and so you have a lot of control with the forks. But on the Explorers stock, they don't do that, and I think it's to save money because you only have to do one thing, and normally there's just a plug in here. So that is one of the big deals. So if you're getting your suspension done by anybody but TBT and they have Explorer forks or the new Exact Explorers or what, anyway, the less expensive ones, so not the air forks, make sure your tuner is at least doing this, because this gives you way more control over the valving and the damping on the fork. So, oh no, you're on camera, Zach. Look at the smile on Zach's face, everybody. So, I'll show you why he's smiling. Look at that. Look at that. I sort of have a feeling this is beyond help. At least not without doing a motor. That is incredible, people. So, you know how I talk about over and over and over again, I say maintain your air filters? I thought that it was implied that having an air filter was part of that. But not even having an air box. Was the air box on it at all? So that's how it came, just like that. Well, you can see obviously it's got the sweet, super duper awesome custom paint job and a bunch of other awesome things. But I took it in here. I didn't really look at it closely, but because, it's a guy, it's a little kid's bike. I want to get kids' bikes going because kids are awesome and I want them riding, but yeah, that ain't gonna happen. Guys, got my 125 all ready to go racing. I got the pipe blown out again. Ooh, looks nice. Probably I sneezed on that very hard. It would dent again, but whatever. Be good for now. I am excited. I'm racing on the Kenda Gauntlet on the back and a Bridgestone M59 up front, and of course running my Nitro Mooses, Platinum Mooses in there. And yeah, we're ready to go racing, guys. I got my big tank. I rode with that last night. Make sure you check that Thursday night ride video out. Didn't really make any difference. I couldn't really tell that it was there, so that was cool. Definitely a little more weight when it's full, but that won't last long because this bike burns gas fast. So yeah, make sure you subscribe, guys. We're going racing. It's going to be a lot of fun. Now I got to get back to work. Oh, guys, getting ready to go racing. You know you're living right when you got to fill up that with 2-stroke gas for the weekend. Oh, guys, thank you so much for joining me for the Shlog. Like I said, we're getting ready to go racing. We're cutting it off, the Shlog right now. It's Friday night. Leandra and Zach are so wonderful that they're going to be working tomorrow, while my boy and I are driving over to San Isabel, Colorado to go racing. So I hope you guys like the Shlog. I hope you guys like our videos. If you do, if you're new here, you just watched this whole thing, you made it this far, if you think it was worthwhile, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. We are always doing new stuff, always showing new tech videos, new how-to videos, our weekly Shlog, ride videos, review videos, all that kind of stuff. Speaking of which, I got some good review videos coming up. One is going to be rugged radios. I'm going to do a full review of the rugged radios we've been using. Also going to be doing a full review of the climb gear I've been wearing, both the Mojave jersey, the Dakar jersey, and the Dakar pants. And then I have long overdue for doing a review on some adventure spec stuff that I was given. Adventure spec lineman's jacket, Atacama jacket, a jersey, and then some like underwear, pant, like compression short kind of things. So anyway, make sure you stick around, subscribe, because those are all coming here very soon. I hope you guys get out, spread the gospel of 2 wheels, and you know what I'm going to say. I desperately hope that what we're doing here at Highland Cycles is inspiring you guys to work on and get out and ride your dirt bikes!